Yes. You tell him why you mentioned his name. You don't remember already. The word? Oh.
But you were looking for the mind-body connection. I was looking for the word connection.
So the Rabbi and the whole system is constantly trying to develop techniques.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen,
but you want to develop the kalim with oil.
If it doesn't happen that way, right? The kalim develops other ways.
If what?
The kalim start getting developed other ways.
Yeah.
But if they have to get developed,
Yeah.
You have both. You need tension. The tension between the two. They're in here. So, the Megillah? Yeah. Sorry, two things in one.
I didn't realize that I came from such a world too.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I was wondering when the wind will ultimately blow you this way. Okay, let's move on. Sorry for the kalim. A lot of revolutionaries had oil, but no kalim.
Did you write this all down for yourself? What you were just telling us?
Last night, before I fell asleep.
It's a amazing masber.
No, where is it?
I never had such a clarity about it.
This is, it's not, tell you, whatever, just some notes to structure the class.
How did you get it out? How did you understand yourself?
I don't know.
Analysis, thinking?
I read a lot about it in the Maimarim. I looked up all the Maimarim. And I was basically just a Machtzedek, right?
Eventually it became clear. So I read this, but it made no sense.
Okay.
Before your explanation, it made zero sense.
What point made it so clear for you?
And the explanation of Tov was pure emotion,
Pure.
energy.
And therefore infinite, unconstrained, no other calculations, no compromises. Don't look at it from another perspective, no other perspective.
And actually I understood now that Ace of
Yeah,
came from.
yeah, one-dimensional. And there's something very special about it.
Yeah.
You have to be able...
That's why, it's got love. Because he saw the purity.
The purity, yeah. 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 And the problem with it is not with it. The problem is that we don't have kalim for it. Including the person himself. The person himself. So it drives him crazy.
In a way, it's a disruption, yeah.
And he destroys himself. He believes that he's a destroyed person because look at me, look at what Meshuggah. The whole world is saying, calm down, and I'm the only crazy person. So you destroy yourself. That people don't realize. Shviras HaKelim is what you do to yourself.
Right.
You break yourself. You break yourself. It's powerful. Okay, Rabbi Isaac, we're good? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry for our 12-minute delay. We were having too much of a good time. It's a problem, right?
time doesn't exist.
Huh? When shiurim are boring and monotonous, they never have a problem ending on time. You know that, right? When they're interesting, it's a little... it's like the kids don't want to leave the amusement park. We want to stay here another couple hours. Oh, we need the Megillus again. Can I trouble you to bring those blue Svarim? Okay, so we're up to Daf Beis Amud Aleph. I want to welcome everybody. Those who are with us physically, those who are with us virtually, those who were with us yesterday virtually and they're here physically, and everybody else. So, Bruchim Abayim. We're up to Dav Beis Amud Aleph, and like middle of the page, right? The line starts Remiza. You see, Heicha Remiza Amar Reb Shemen ben Abba. You see, Remiza. It's like from the Gemara. It's like 10 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines. When the Gemara starts, 11 lines. You'll give everybody. Okay. When you get your blue chumash, please turn to page 660, because we're going to focus today on the verses of Megillas Esther. I'm not going to repeat what I did yesterday because I want to move on. So I hope you remember it, and if not, you can always review a shiur. It's on the yeshiva.net, and you can always go back and review any shiur you wish, or learn on your own, even better. So let's remember what the Gemara was discussing. The Mishnah told us a big chiddush, that the Megillah can be read on 5 different days, right? Day 11, day 12, day 13, day 14, day 15 of the month of Adar. And the Mishnah went through the specifics of when do you read it, on which day. So, what was the principle? The principle was always that Jews who live in cities, small cities, large cities, cities that have walls but not from the days of Yeshua ben Nun, they read the Megillah on the 14th of Adar. Jews who live in cities that are fortified with a wall from the days of Yeshua ben Nun, they read the Megillah on the 15th of Adar. And then you have the Jews who live in villages where they did not have their own, they didn't have the ability to make their own minyanim for reading the Megillah on the 14th day of Adar. So if the 14th day of Adar falls out on Monday or Thursday, wonderful, they go into the city and they read the Megillah with everybody else. But if the 14th of Adar falls out on Sunday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Friday or Shabbos, so then, Makdimin L'yoyim HaKnisa, they're given special permission to be able to read the Megillah a few days before Purim. On a Monday or Thursday, that's before the 14th of Adar, they come into the city because they would come in every Monday and Thursday. It was very common to come in for, as Rashi says, the courts that were always running on Monday and Thursday from Ezra's days yet. And Ezra lived shortly after the miracle of Purim, and therefore they are coming in anyway. Go and read the Megillah then. And on Purim itself, meaning on the 14th day of Adar itself, they do not have to read the Megillah, although as we'll see later, they had a meal, and they gave Shalach Manas, that they would do on Yudalet Adar. But the Megillah reading, as well as Matanis Lavyonim, they did on that day, that was Monday or Thursday, before Yudalet Adar. Okay. Yes.
Yesterday we learned in the Megillah that the Shushan Avila was actually still going on killing.
In Shushan Habira, the killing, when the war continued on the 14th, they only celebrated and rested on the 15th.
Why don't you do just only in Shushan Avila? What does that have to do with Mikulas Kohanim or not?
Good, excellent question. So in Shushan Habira, the Purim should have been celebrated on the 15th every year, because that's when it was the first year. How did that translate that every city that has a wall from the days of Yeshua ben Nun suddenly becomes Shushan Habira? What's the logic of that? That's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. We're going to be discussing that at length. The Gemara will be exploring that. Where does Shushan Habira translate into every city? I'm living in Yerushalayim, that had a wall from the days of Yeshua ben Nun, right? Like you're living, what to do with Shushan? Shushan is in Iran, in Persia. What's the connection?
And why Menicha cannot be for 2 days? Why Menicha cannot be for 2 days, only 1 day? So the one that finished born 13th have to be Meniach on 14th and 15th.
I guess the day after is... Okay, so the Gemara asked a question, and the first question the Gemara asks on this is Minolan. What's your source for this? Who came up with this? So the Gemara says, what do you mean who came up with this? We have a brisa later that explains that the Chachamim were lenient with all these Jews because on the 14th of Adar they were busy. They would provide the food. They lived in agricultural communities. That's why they had little villages. These were villages that were built around farms and fields. They would provide the food, the grain, and different foods, and water for their brothers in the cities. And Purim, that was very relevant, especially because they needed it for the meal of Purim, and we'll see a little later some more discussion about that detail, why they made this leniency for them. That's why it was established. What are you looking for sources? So the Gemara explained the question in a very, very interesting way, which becomes, as I explained yesterday, a paradigm for halacha, and that is, it's obvious that the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah inserted this clause into their Purim institution, because there's not conceivable that they made Purim on the 14th and 15th, and a later Bezdin in the time of the Mishnah, or before the Mishnah, undid that and said, no, for many communities, they don't have to read the Megillah on Yud Daled. They can read the Megillah Yud Aleph Yud Beis, because in order to be mevatel the words of a Bezdin, you have to be greater b'chachma u b'minyan. So obviously, the same people who instituted Purim also added these extra 3 possible days, if necessary. If so, we ask the question, where would it be hinted in the Megillah? It should be hinted in the Megillah, because if it was an institution, they put everything into the Megillah, even if it's not so explicit. I'm fine that it's not explicit, because it's not a global holiday for Klal Yisrael. It's for the Jews in these villages, but it should be hinted in the Megillah. That's where we are, right? So that's what the Gemara says. Heichen Remizah. Where is it hinted? Amar Reb Shemen bar Abba. So Reb Shemen, the son of Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan said in the name of Reb Yochanan, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, L'kayim es yimei hapurim ha'ela bizmaneim zmanim harbe tiknu lahem. And please take a look at the pasuk, page 660. It's Megillus Esther Perik Tes, pasuk Lamed Aleph, pasuk Lamed Aleph. In the previous pasuk, in the previous psukim, it says that Esther Hamalka and Mordechai wrote letters to the Jewish people that they should be mekayim esigeres hapurim azois hashenis. They should observe the holiday of Purim. That's pasuk Chavtes, right? Pasuk Lamed. They sent svarim. They sent letters, books to all the Jews in all 127 provinces of Achashverosh. Divrei shalom ve'emes, words of peace and truth. L'kayim es yemei hapurim ha'ela bizmanehem. To observe the days of Purim, bizmanehem. The word bizmanehem is superfluous. The Megillah already explained the time of Purim. The 14th in the open cities, the 15th in other cities. Imagine they would say that we're sending a letter, everybody should observe Pesach. We know when Pesach is. It says in Chumash when Pesach is, on the 15th day of Nisan, and 7 days subsequently. We know when Sukkot is, we know when Yom Kippur is. Oh, really? I should do Purim in the time of Purim? I shouldn't do Purim on Chanukah? I shouldn't do Purim on Tu B'Shvat? I shouldn't do Purim on Lag B'Omer? Okay, I won't. I shouldn't do Purim on Yom Kippur, even though they sound the same? Yom HaKippurim? Agansya Purim, yeah, very good, very good. Purim nichten agansya shikr, yeah? Purim he's sober and the whole day he's drunk, old Yiddish expression. What's the bizmaneim? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan says, Zmanim harbe tiknu lahem. Purim is a 1 day holiday, but that 1 day has many different alternatives. There's many times that they made for Purim. No other holiday like this. Zmanim harbe tiknu lahem. When they were masakin Purim, they didn't make Purim a 5-day holiday. That's not the case. That would make sense. Chanukah is an 8-day holiday. Purim is a 5-day. That's not what we're saying. Purim is a 1-day holiday. But that 1 day could happen Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Aleph, Tesvav. Zmanim harbe tiknu. L'kayim yemei Purim ela bizmanehem. Literally observe the days of Purim in their times. Doesn't even say bizmanoi, bizmanehem. This is where they hinted that Purim has different times. Frag the Gemara, no, come on. Haime boyele legufe. No, come on. It's clear why it says bizmanehem, because we know that there's 2 days. Yudalan and Tesvav. That's the bizmanehem. Yes, to observe the days of Purim in their times, because there's 2 times. There's Yudalan and Tesvav. That's what the Megillah says before. It's beautiful why it says bizmanehem. Because it's not clear when Purim is. If I live here, Purim is Yudalit. If I live there, Purim is Tesvav. This word is necessary. Legufe means to teach me the actual reality, the actual holiday of Purim on the days of Yudalit and Tesvav. because that's the days that I mentioned earlier in the Megillah. Where did the Gemara come up? Rabbi Yochanan that did Bismaneim proves that there's a Yud Aleph and Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. It's a very poor proof because the Bismaneim covers the 2 days of Purim. You're right. If the Megillah would say that Purim is only 1 day, Yud Aleph, and then it would say Bismaneim, you have a good hint. But it says already there's 2 days in the Megillah. So the Gemara says, Im Kain. If this word is only relating to the days that are explicitly mentioned in the Megillah, Le Mikra Zman. The term that should have been used is L'kayim es Yemei HaPurim Ha'ela Bizman. To observe the time of Purim, the days of Purim in the time. You want to say Bizman because you want to tell people, right? Do it in the right time. But you could say to do it Bizman. My Zmaneihem. Their times.
It's grammatically correct. This Bismanehem because there are different groups. So you address Bismanehem.
Right, but your point is that you want to say there's a Zman for Purim, Yudaler Tesvav. What's Zmanehem? Their times? Zmanim Tuva. That means there's more times. Gemara says, no. What you're asking. No. Maybe Zmaneim still means Yudalet Tesvav, but I'll tell you why it has to say. It has to say that the time of this is not like the time of this. Meaning, if it would say Bizman, L'kayim HaPurim Ha'ela Bizman, what would I say? I would say there's a time for Purim, no question. But I can choose it. I could choose to do it on Yudalid, wherever I am, and I could choose to do it on Tesvav, wherever I am. So it says Bizmanehem, the times are varied. There's 2 times. In other words, Bizman could say, you have to do Purim Bizman. What's the Zman of Purim? The Zman of Purim is either Yudalid or Tesvav. But the fact that you're grouping them together, there's a Zman of Purim, may intimate that what? That you can choose. You could do Purim on Yudalid, you could do Purim on Tesvav. You could do Purim on Tesvav, you could do Purim on Yudalid. Wherever you're living, you could do it. So that's why the Megillah would say, Bizmanehem, that there's no one Zman for both of them, and you can choose according to what works for you. It's like a multiple choice. If Yudalid is better for you, this holiday gives 2 options. And we understand why. Because there were 2 holidays. They danced on Yudalid and they danced on Tesvav. You choose. Options would be a very interesting idea in Judaism. You want Purim Yudalid? Good. It's too busy Yudalid? No problem. You'll do it the next day. Tesvav?
So the real Jews celebrate them 2 days.
So
you first celebrate what you had on Yudalid,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
So you celebrate them with them as well.
Yeah. So the Megillah said Bizmanehem. No. Zmanei Shalzeh like Zmanei Shalzeh. It's not one Zman. It's 2 different times. In other words, it's a different Zman of Purim. This is one Purim. I can't celebrate Tesvav if I'm not in the proper city. You cannot celebrate Yudalid if you're not in the appropriate city. There's a different Zman for each. It's 2 Zmanim. Not L'kayim HaPurim Ha'ela Bizman. Right? It's one holiday, choose. So the Gemara says, Im Kain, that's a good word, but then Le Mikra Zmanom. Could have said L'kayim HaPurim Ha'ela Bizmanom. In their time. Instead of Bizman, in their time. Meaning there's 2 times. My Zmanehem, you just put in an extra hey and an extra yud. Zmanom is their time. Zmanehem is their times. Shamat minei kulu. From here you derive everything we said. First of all, you derive that Yudalid and Tesvav are 2 separate times. Second of all, there's more times. And what are the more times? Yud Aleph and Yud Beis and Yud Gimel, and those are the extra days in addition to Yudalid and Tesvav. Rashi, Le Mikra Esimei HaPurim Ha'ela Bizman, the Mashma Bizman HaMefurish Lehem. Do Purim in the right time, that says. So he says no, because then you might think that you can do either holiday, and you want to say it's different times. You still need Zmanim Loshen Rabim. Why? Zmanei shel Mukafin lav kizmanei shel Prozim. The E Kosav Bizman have a mashma Zman echad l'shnei. If it would say Zman, it would sound like there's one Zman, one time for both. Ibo likru bar bisar. If you want to read 14, it's fine. Vibo, if you want likru b'chamisar. See, Rashi goes to the left column. On the 15th. So you have to be Mekayim Purim Bizman. But this Zman encompasses both days. It would be like a long holiday, and you could choose one. Yeah, and you could choose one instead of the other. So we say no, it's taka two zmanim, it's like two yomim tovim, and it's a different inyan. But for this, it could have said zmanam, not zmaneihem. This is Rabbi Yochanan's explanation, quoted by Reb Shimon bar Rabbi, where the Anshe Knesset Agdola hinted that Purim has multiple times. These Yemei Purim have different zmanim. Frag the Gemara, okay, ema zmanim tova. Where do you get your Aleph, Yud Beis, and Yud Gimel? Zmaneihem means it has many times. Ema zmanim tova. What's pshat ema zmanim tova? Asach Zeiten. Many times. Atazoi. From the beginning of the month of Adar. Why? Pashat. Because since it says in another pasuk Chav Beis, HaChodesh Asher Napach Lahem, the month was transformed. So therefore we would say maybe Bizmaneim includes everything from Aleph Adar till Yudalet Adar. Everything. Indeed, I mentioned yesterday, the Yerushalmi says in Masechta Megillah that B'di'evet Kol HaChodesh, right? From the beginning of the month, it's Kosher L'Kriyas HaMegillah. Not the second half of the month. We'll soon see. We don't go after Purim, but till Purim. So if it says Bizmaneihem, give me another 10 days. Give me from Rish Chodesh till Yud. Now, usually the Gemara would answer, Tafasta Merubah loy Tafasta. Let's not go too much. Okay?
Maybe they mean also two others.
But in this case, you have a Chodesh. It says the Megillah identifies the holiday with the month. The month was transformed, not the day, the month. So if so, let the Bizmaneim be expanded. You could read the Megillah from Aleph. So the Gemara says, Zmaneim dumya dezmanam. This is a very interesting answer. Where did this whole source come from in the Megillah? Where did Anshe Knesset Agdola hint it? L'kayim esimei Purim ha'ela bizmaneihem, right? Bizmaneihem. It could have said bizmanam. It says bizmaneihem. So we say the extra yud hey of zmaneihem is in the same word like zmanam. Zmanam, zmaneihem. So the zmaneihem is similar to the zmanam, to the main zman of Purim. If it would have said zmanam, what would it mean? Yudalet Tesvav. Zmaneihem is Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. So Zmaneihem is compared to Zmanam. Ma Zmanam Trei, Av Zmaneihem Trei. Just like the primary Zman of Purim is 2 days, so the extra times that are added are also 2 days. So we added an extra 2 days. 1 second. Good question. We added 3, not 2. We're going to get to that in a moment. But let's understand the answer. We explained before that the word Zmaneihem includes 2 points. Number 1 is the shlasmem. Zman becomes zmanam. In Diktuk, this is important. Zman is time. Zmanam is their time, right? Their time. That's the shlasmem at the end. Zma nam. Zayin mem nun. Shlasmem, it becomes their time. What does that teach me? That teaches me there's 2 times. And don't confuse the 2. You have your time, and you have your time. It's their time. It's not 1 time. There's 2 yamim tovim, and you have to know which one you can observe. Then we added a yud and a hey, which made it zmaneihem. All their times. More. It's not their time, but zmaneihem, their times. Like there's even more times. So, after zmanam, Purim has 2 days. After zmaneihem, Purim has another 2 days. You're not going to add more. Zmanam is 2. Zmaneihem is another 2. Frag the Gemara 1 second. Say that that's Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. Why then you're adding Yud Aleph? You added 3 days, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. You told me you can't add more days because you have to keep it to 2. Really? So keep it to 2. So add Trei Sar. Trei Sar is 12. Trei Sar is 2 and 10. Trei in Aramaic is 2. Sar is like Eser, right? Sar is 10. Trei Sar is 2 and 10, 12. Tlei Sar is 3 and Sar is 10. So Tlei Sar is 13. So add 12 and 13. Why'd you add 11? Answers the Gemara, could Amar Reb Shmuel bar Yitzchak. This is based on an idea of Reb Shmuel bar Yitzchak, which he says later. Yud Gimel Zman Kehila Lakoilhi. The day of 13 is a day of kehillah, of community, of gathering for everybody. Meaning, when you look in the Megillah, it says that on the 13th of Adar, Nikhalu, the Jewish people gathered, like the word kahal, kehillah, they gathered to stand in self-defense because that was the day of war. So that was the day, Zman Kehila L'Koili, it was the day that they all gathered together to fight their enemy in Shushan and in all of the regions of Achashverosh from Haidu to Kush. Zman Kehila L'Koili, and therefore, V'lo Tzarich L'Ribuya. And therefore, you don't need a special limud to include that day for the Megillah, because that's the day that actually the primary miracle happened. As Rashi says, "Man kehila l'koili hakoil nikaluli nokem me'oveim ben b'shushim b'b'shar mekamis k'mo shekasu b'sefer hilchach loy tzarich krali ribuye sherei royu l'kriya." I don't need a pasuk. The Anshe Knesset Agdela should intimate for me that I could use this day for kriyas Megillah. The ikir anes boyhaya. That's when the action happened. That's when the 75,000 people who wanted every Jew dead were defeated. That's when the miracle happened. Afterwards, it was just the l'chaim happened afterwards. The parties, the feasting, the relaxation. But the Ikir Anes was when? Was on Yud Gimel. So therefore he says, Reb Shmuel Bar Yitzchak says, Yud Gimel you don't need a ribui. You don't need a ribui. Hachanami Yud Gimel Zman Kehila L'Koili V'lo Tzarich L'Ribuya. So when you have Bismanehem, adding more times, what is it? Another 2, just like the original Zmanim. What is that? Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. You're asking a good question, because if Rashi's interpretation is right, why doesn't the Megillah say that Purim is also Yud Gimel? The Megillah says that there's 2 days to celebrate Purim, Yud Dalet and Tesvav, right? So Rashi says, Yud Gimel, it's like, we know that already. You never do that. Maybe we should say that you could do Pesach on Erev Pesach. You could do your whole Seder on Erev Pesach because you bring the carbon Pesach. We're making a new day for a holiday. The Megillah says clearly that they made the holiday when they rested. That's not a Yud Gimel. Yeah? So what does Rashi mean? You don't need a pasuk bit. So we could make our own day when you're allowed to read the Megillah, not like before you protested changing the Anshe Knesset Agdola's position, and now the Gemara says, we don't need their pasukim. We know on our own. Yud Gimel for sure they allowed you to read the Megillah. It's a little hard to understand. The Megillah gives 2 days, Yud Dalet and Tesvav, not Yud Gimel. You want to add it through Bismaneim, fine, but for that you only have 2 days, not 3 days. So you say, Yud Gimel, you don't need a pasuk. Like Rashi says, it's hard to understand, huh? And fakert, it's a stira. It's not just you're adding a new day. You're adding a contradictory day. Because the Megillah says, when did they make Purim? On the day of Menucha. And you're adding the day of Melchama. It's not just you're making a new day on your own. You're making a wrong day. You're giving the wrong day, the day that you're undermining the Megillah. There's a difference between adding and fighting. Knew how?
Rashi is saying that the ribui for Yud Dalet and Yud Tesvav you need, because the Iker Nes wasn't on those days. Yud Gimel is Ashtas because the Nes.
Zol Zayin.
But Yud Dalet and Tesvav, I need a ribui because the Nes didn't happen.
No, a ribu you need for Yud. No, you
don't need a ribui for Yud Dalet, but the Nes didn't happen on Yud Dalet.
There was no
There
Nes.
was Hanocha then.
You're right, but
Yud Gimel, Rashi is learning Iker Nes for you, so you don't need anything for that. That's when the main event happened.
What kind of Nes was it? The fact that
That's when the story of Purim happened.
That's
Yud
not
Gimel.
Nes. That's
They
the
killed
fact-
everyone. I mean,
They killed not Alpi Nes, Alpi
but Rashi
Beretela.
is saying those words. The Ikar and that's boy hoyu. Rashi is saying. I'm not saying that. Rashi says.
no, we know the Ikar Anas Boyhaya. That the Megillah
You
says.
don't need a limud.
That the Megillah. You're right, the Ikar Anas Boyhaya. But in the Megillah it says that they made Purim on Yud Dalet, not on Yud Gimel. I'm adding. It's not only they didn't make it on Yud Gimel, they dafka didn't make it on Yud Gimel. You're right. The first year they couldn't because you can't drink and fight. Very good. No drinking and driving, and no drinking and fighting. Right? We got that.
It says here they didn't do it till the second.
Huh? Right, but Purim was established for generation, and they made it. They didn't make it only a dalit for the. So you want to say the first year they made it Yudal, the second year Yud Gimel. It's a psachidish. But this is how Rashi teaches it. So some of the Rishonim explain. This question is asked by the Rosh and the Rajba, and they basically explain it a little based on the Yerushalmi. They explain it a little differently. They say that we wouldn't have added Yud Gimel on our own. We would have never done that. We can't. Doesn't say it. We don't add days. And read a Megillah with a bracha, you don't do that. Sorry. It's like I'll read the Megillah today with a bracha. It's a bracha levatali. You're not allowed to do that. I mean, you could read the Megillah as a sefer, but you can't read it with a bracha, with Hashem's name in this. Elamai, especially you can't add it because it's a day of war. It wasn't a day of rest. And they dafka made Purim on the day of rest, not on the day of war. So therefore, we would have not added Yud Gimel at all. So when it says Bizmanehem, and we want to add 2 days, what do we add? We add Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. We dafka don't want to add Yud Gimel, because Yud Gimel was the Yom of the Milchama, and they established Purim only in the days of Menucha. So therefore you add Yud Aleph, Yud Beis. But he says the Gemara says now, once you're reading the Megillah on Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, and you're reading the Megillah on Yud Dalet and Tesvav, so they said obviously, the one as you're not going to leave him a yosem. It's called a kailech de yosem, a round orphan. He's sandwiched between Yud Aleph and Yud Beis and Yud Dalet and Tesvav. So he said, if you could read it before and you could read it after, so mitzad hasvara, you should add that you could read the Megillah also on Yud Gimel, and you don't need a special ribu in the pasuk. That's what the Rosh and the Rashba write. The name of Tosfos. Huh? And the Ritva says that's Pshat and Rashi. He says that's also Pshat and Rashi. That since it's Iker Hanes, and you're adding the days before, which are not the days of Menucha, it was the days leading up to the war, right? It wasn't Yud Aleph Yud Beis is not days of Menucha. You're adding more days, so it's mistaber that you can add Yud Gimel also. Even though Taka doesn't say in the Megillah. Why doesn't it say in the Megillah? Just like it doesn't say Yud Aleph and Yud Beis in the Megillah, because it's not the primary days for most Jews. Most Jews only Yud Aleph as well. But the Jews in villages get Yud Aleph, they get Yud Beis, and they can get Yud Gimel also. That's the idea. No, we understand why it's Iker Hanes.
You could have think that Yud Gimel is the only day we should celebrate.
Fine, but Iker Hanes means that's when it happened. That's when they were defeated. That's 75,000 people. It's not.
I think the Nes was before that led to the defeat. It was not a Nes. It was a self-defense war.
There's also the Rishonim bring from Rabbeinu Tam another very interesting answer. I saw earlier. Rabbeinu Tam says that Zman Kehillah means something else. We touch Zman Kehillah, Rashi says they gather together to fight. Nikhalu va'amad al nafsham. Rabbeinu Tam says Zman Kehillah means something else. That Jews gathered on Yud Gimel Adar together with Mordechai and Esther to fast and to daven because they knew what a dangerous and serious day it is. So Zman Kehillah Lakoila is that they actually gathered to pray and repent. And he says that's why we fast today, Tainus Esther, on Yud Gimel, because Man Kehillah Lakoil, because it was a day that they set slichas and he says it's called Zman Kehillah because Jews from the villages come to the cities to say slichas, to say tachanunim. That's what Rabbeinu Tam Tainus. So he says, therefore, it's not worse than the Yom HaKnissa, and you could read the Megillah then. It's not worse. What? In other words, it's not worse than the Yom HaKnissa, and you can read the Megillah then. In other words, even from the villages, they came to the cities because they wanted to do slichas with a minyan on Yud Gimel. You understand? In other words, Rabbi Natam is saying part of Purim is also Yud Gimel. Yud Gimel is the avodah of seriousness, and Yud Dalet is the avodah of simcha. But Yud Gimel is also part of Purim. Zman Kehillah Lakoil, very interesting idea. It was a time that the Kfarim come to the cities. If the Kfarim come to the cities, right, and you say, so maybe you could read the Megillah then, because it's Yom HaKnissa. That's what. That's a different mahalach. Zog the Gemara, ve'ema shitzer v'shifzer. Maybe the 2 days that are added should be 16 and 17, not Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Why are you going backwards? Says the Gemara, because of another pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'loy yaver." I'm going to ask you to take a look in the pasuk It's pasuk Chav Zayin, Peritas pasuk Chav Zayin. Kimu v'kiblu haYehudim aleim v'alzarim v'alkol hanilvim aleim v'loy yaver. The Jewish people accepted on themselves the idea of Purim lias oisim es shnei yamim ma'elik ichsavim v'chizmana b'chol shana v'shana to celebrate these 2 days. What's v'loy yaver? What's v'loy yaver? Yaver literally means what? It should not pass. It should not pass. So literally it means that the days should not pass without a celebration. Don't let these days just fly by. V'lo yavar, it shouldn't pass. Yeah? But the Gemara learns from here, v'lo yavar, that Purim should not be passed over to next days. In other words, you shouldn't pass through these days without Kriyas HaMegillah. So therefore we say you can't go to Tezayin Yud Zayin, because then it says v'lo yavar. In other words, make sure you don't go through these 2 days without the Megillah and without the celebration of Purim. So obviously, this is the cutoff time. Tetzvav is cutoff time, we're not going further. It says Bizmaneihem. Okay, Bizmaneihem, I go back, but I don't go further. Because v'lo yavar ksiv. Reb Shmuel Bar Nachmani says, Amar Kra. I'll tell you another source in the Megillah. The first source was from Rabbi Yochanan, Bizmaneihem. Purim has multiple times, multiple dates. I'll give you another source. Amar Kra, the Pasuk says. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the Pasuk. Pasuk Chaf Aleph and Pasuk Chaf Beis. Okay? Pasuk Chaf says, Mordechai wrote the Megillah, and he sent books, he sent letters to all Jews. And what did he say? Chaf Aleph, take a look. This is the letter of Mordechai, okay, text. L'kayem aleim lias oisim v'shem arba'asa l'chodesh adav v'shem chamishasa b'y b'chol shana v'shana. I want you to observe every day, every year, these 2 days. Kayomim asher nochu b'hem haYehudim me'yeveh. Like the days when the Jews rested from their enemies. Like the month that was originally transformed. Okay? It's interesting. He doesn't say to read the Megillah here. Right? You asked yesterday. It doesn't say to read the Megillah here. But what's the next pasuk? The next pasuk is v'kibul haYehudim es asher chelu lasas ve'eis asher kosav Mordechai aleim. What's that? The Jews accepted what they already began to do because they started to celebrate on their own, and what Mordechai wrote to them. Yeah, obviously. So asher Mordechai aleim, the Mefarshim explain, they accepted what Mordechai wrote for them. In other words, to read. They accepted to read what Mordechai wrote, which is the Megillah. Es asher kosav Mordechai aleim. Okay. But let's understand, Kayomim asher nachu. They sent books, they sent letters. We want you to observe, everybody should observe 2 days. Kayomim asher nachu b'hem haYehudim me'yeveh. Like the days that the Jews rested from their enemies, right? L'kayim aleim. So he says, Omar kra kayomim asher nachu b'hem haYehudim. It should have said, Yomim. Kayomim l'rabas yud aleph yud beis. Fascinating interpretation, which teaches you how the Chazal were so sensitive to nuance. The word kaf is mamish superfluous. Okay? Let's do it in English. I'm writing a letter. Chevra, every year I want you to celebrate 2 days in the year. Yodalet or Tesvav. Excuse me, why? Because these are the days when your ancestors experienced a major miracle. Beautiful. Yeah? You'll say, Tesvav Adar, Yodalet Adar. These are the Yomim asher nachu. What's Kayomim? Like the days? Like the days? Yomim, the days asher nachu b'hem haYehudim. When I'm going to celebrate it on Yudalin and Tesvav, these are the actual days when it happened. It happened 2,500 years ago. It happened 2,000 years ago. It happened 50 years ago. Depends on where you are in history. But these are the days. My Kayomim.
No, that's a logical English. Just like on those days we rested from on Yudalit.
The day is the same.
Just like we did.
Right, but you don't need it. In other words, it could say, it said it very clearly. Lias oisim yoimar basar v'chiyom chamishasar. Celebrate every year, the 14th and the 15th. Why? Yomim, these are the days. Asher nocha b'hem haYehudim me'yeveh. These are the days. They're the real days. It happened on this day. Just a year. Like we say, celebrate Tesvav Nisan Yitzias Mitzrayim, right? Or celebrate the 25th of Kislev Chanukah, because this is the day when they won the war, when they lit the menorah, when they went out of Mitzrayim. This is the day. It didn't happen this year. It didn't happen last year. It happened 3,300 years ago plus, but this is the day. So what do we learn from here? Means like those days, there's another 2 days. This was their remez where they put in that it's not just these 2 days. There's kayama means literally like the days or similar to the days. Chaf is a chaf adimyan, right? Like ke, you say kemoy, like. So kayamim, celebrate Yudal. It's a remez. It's not the literal reading, but it's a remez. It's a hint. The extra letter is there to put in a code. It's a code. It's a code language. And the code is deduced by those who have to deduce it. So I'm telling you like this. Celebrate day 13 and day 14. Kayamim, like those days, like the 2 days, there's another 2 days, which is Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Rashi says, Yamim kayamim, le'el minei ksiv Yudalet v'tesvav yismechu. Uksiv kayamim asher nachu b'ma Yehudim. V'havalei lemichtav yamim asher nachu. The mashma, heim yamim asher nachu. Heim, twice, heim. Those are the, my kayamim, l'rabbe shnayim acheres kidugmasa. Like those days, there's another 2 days. Same amount, kayamim. Ve'ema shitza, ve'ema treso slicer. So do 12 and 13. Why are you adding 11? Kayamim, there's 2 original days and you're adding another 2. Amir Shmuel by Yitzchak, this is what he said. Yud Gimel Zman Keilah L'Kaili. 13 is the day that the Jews gathered to protect themselves and fight their enemies. You don't need a special pasuk to include this day when the main miracle happened. Maybe it's 16 and 17, not 11 and 12. It says and therefore you can't pass Yud and Tesvav without reading the Megillah, and therefore Kayamim gives me Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, and hence the source that they put into the Megillah in code language, that they made a secret Purim for those that it's relevant to. Not so secret, but an exclusive Purim, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, but it comes from the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, and that's where they embedded it into the Megillah, intimating that there are other alternative times when appropriate for Jews in these villages who would have a difficulty coming on the day of Yud Aleph itself to the city when it's not on a Monday or a Thursday. Says the Gemara, Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, my time bismaneyam. We had 2 sources, 2 Amirayim who gave 2 sources in the Megillah for adding days. Why do they have to disagree? Why doesn't Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani use the first source, which is Zmaneihem, which Reb Shimon bar Abba said? So the Gemara says, Zmanam Zmaneihem loy mashmaleh. Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani does not feel that it's logical to expound the 3 parts of the word as giving you 3 different ideas. Zman, and Zmanom, and Zmaneihem. In other words, Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani also appreciates that it says Bizmaneihem to teach me that Zmanoi Shalzeh is like Zmanoi Shalzeh, that there's 2 different times. But he doesn't see it as 2 separate drushes. We saw it as 2 separate drushes. It's 2 separate times, plus there's more days. He doesn't feel that in that one word, you can go so far and say, there's 2 separate times, Yudalit and Tesvav, which shouldn't be mixed and can't be substituted for each other. It's either this or this, plus there's more days. Why doesn't Reb Shimon agree with Reb Shmuel about Kayamim? The reason is because the pasuk is saying Kayamim because he's talking about later generations. And when he says later generations, therefore he says Kayamim. It's like the days. Like you said, because it's the days in the calendar, but it's not the days that they rested, right? Purim in a subsequent year is not the day they rested. So it says Kayamim, it should be like the days. Like the days. In the sense of not like the days that it's not the right day. It is the right day. But like the days when they rested, you should celebrate. That's the ka. If it would have said yamim, it would be a little bit of a wrong impression. These are the days that they rested. No, these are not days. These are regular days this year. Ka yamim means, but once upon a time, on these days, they rested. That's what Reb Shimon bar Abba holds. So therefore, he goes to Bismanehem. And he learns it from Bismanehem. But Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani says, no. Ka yamim is a good limud. Perhaps he holds. The Levi Yitzchak Baditchev writes in Kedushas Levi, it says by Chanukah, L'shana haba kovim, that they made Chanukah only the next year. Why not the first year? After the oil burns for 8 days, they should say, Chevra, it's time to make this a Yom Tov. It's L'shana haba. He says, because the next year, they experienced the same oil, the same divine energy of last year. They experienced it again. They said, oh, it's a Yom Tov. Because biblical holidays, Hashem made. But rabbinic holidays, Hashem didn't make. So how do you make a Yom Tov? I'm going to decide it's a Yom Tov. A lot of things happen in history that were positive. The pshat is, a Yom Tov means that the same oir, the same energy that came into the world the first year repeats itself. It's like time is cyclical. You go back to that very same energy, same place. So it could be Reb Shmuel, to feel it. So L'shana haba, the next year, Chanukah, it's here. They had to wait for the next year. If God makes the holiday, He says every year Pesach is Yetzias Mitzrayim, physically or spiritually. But Chanukah is their own holiday. They had to wait for the next year. That's what. I'm saying it could be. I don't know, but it could be. If Shmuel bar Nachmani holds that it's Taka Yomim. It's Taka Yomim Mashenachu B'hem. Hayamim Melin is Skarim v'Nasim. The Arizal says that through Niskarim is Nasim. So it could be Taka. It's a Yomim. So I say Kayamim. So it's Kayamim. So the Yomim. Even if it's expressed differently.
Every year.
Huh?
Every year.
So therefore it says Ka to add 2 different days, Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. But Rav Shimon bar Abba says no, Kayamim means it's fart not the same thing. It's fart not the same thing. It's like it, but it's not it.
Maybe the first you said that Mordechai wrote the Megillah.
Yeah. We're going to discuss that on Daf Zayin.
What was Esther's role? She asked the Chachamim to include
To make the holiday, yeah. To make the...
in the 24th volume of the Tanakh.
Yeah, we're going to learn on Daf Zayin a whole arichis about Mordechai's role and Esther's role. Mordechai's role and Esther's role, yeah.
First, see, they were naturally. Do we know when
They were naturally
called on as in general? Everything after the.
We'll see. It's going to be a whole discussion. We'll see how it happened and this. We're now discussing just one detail. I want to share with you a very interesting question that the Talmud Yerushalmi in Masechta Megillah asks. They bring it here in the Mesifta Gemara. It's a fascinating question. The Gemara said it's Pashut that Anshe Knesset Agdala were the ones who gave Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, and Yud Gimel. The question is where they hinted it, and that was the discussion now. So the Yerushalmi in the beginning of Masechta Megillah asks a question. He says, why are they coming in on Monday and Thursday? Why are they coming in on Monday and Thursday? Rashi says because Ezra made an institution that Bezdin should sit every week, Monday and Thursday, and people have disputes in villages. There are always issues, and you need advice, and you need arbitration, and you need a psak of a rav, and you need a Bezdin. Huh? So they went in Monday and Thursday. A lot of people used to go in.
Did we say Ezra lived after this?
Very good, that's the question. Yeah. Other Rishonim say they went in for Kriyas HaTorah Monday and Thursday. As to Yerushalmi, Ezra is the one who made the takana to read Kriyas HaTorah on Monday and Thursday, so people shouldn't go 3 days without Torah, because the Jews went 3 days without water. But Ezra lived after the takana of Mordechai and Esther, and after the Anshe Knesset Agdolah, because Esther went up to Eretz Yisrael only in the days of a king called Daryavesh, who was the son of Achashverosh. Daryavish was the son of Achashverosh, and then he went up to Eretz Yisrael, which means he is sometime later. So how could you say that the Anshe Knesset Agdolah, when they wrote the Megillah, right, they put in a hint that in the villages you should read the Megillah, Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. Why? because they're going to come in on Monday and Thursday. Why are they going to come in on Monday and Thursday? Because of the Takanas Ezra later to read Kriyas HaTorah, to make a Bezdin. Like Rashi, like the other Rishonim. Gewaldike question. Like something is off here. So you have to say that it was made later. If it was made later, you just said they can't be Mavatal what Anshe Knesset HaGedolah happened. So we're stuck. So the Yerushalmi says something very interesting. He says the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, and it's also, it resonates with the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah made us different takana. They made a takana, a very generic takana, that when you live in a village and it's hard for you to go hear Megillah, you could do it a day or two. You could do it a few days before Purim when you're coming into the city anyway. In other words, make out of it one trip. Yeah, we call it a family trip. Megatenstadt. Yeah, we're going to the city. You go to the pizza shop. Yeah, you know how it is. Yeah, the family trip. You ever take family trip to 13th Avenue, right? If you live in Atlanta or you live in wherever you live in Houston, you take a family trip to see 13th Avenue or to see Evergreen. Yeah, you eat bagels and you buy vanilla ice cream and you see what traffic looks like. And you see what to live without serenity looks like, and you have a New York experience, and you come home. So you get a parking ticket for $300. You get your car towed, and that's your honeymoon. And you remember it forever, right? All of you who moved from Brooklyn know exactly what I'm talking about. So the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah gave permission that you could read it a few days before your Dalit if you're coming to the city. If you're not coming to the city, you'll come your Dalit. But they gave people this leniency not to make Purim a stressful holiday. Purim is supposed to be a beautiful holiday. This is a very good lesson to us. The whole Mishnah, somebody asked you, say, what am I supposed to learn from this Mishnah? I said, learn one thing. The Chachamim wanted Purim people to be happy. And when you start preparing 900 Shalach Manasin and you're stressing out 6 years before, who are you going to impress with your Shalach Manasin? You lose the point. Look what they did. They changed the dates of Purim just to be able to accommodate them. So they wanted people should be able to relax on Purim. They shouldn't have to schlep again to the city. Now, the Chachmei HaMishnah, they're the ones who fixed it into fixed dates. And they said they should come in L'Yom HaKnisa. The Chachmei HaMishnah, they were already after Ezra. There were already dates for Bezdin and for Kriyas HaTorah. So they said they're all coming into the city anyway on Monday and Thursday. So they fixed those dates. It should be Yom HaKnisa, either Yud Aleph, either Yud Beis, either Yud Gimel, either Yud Aleph. What the Anshe Knesset HaGedolah were saying is you could come in 2 days before Yud Aleph. 2 days before Yud Aleph, right? You could come in to do it. 1 day or 2 days. That's the pshat. That's what the Ritva explains. That's how he explains the Yerushalmi. So in other words, it's not that they made Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, depending on the year, when is Monday, when is Thursday. They put into the Megillah Bizmanehem, or Kayamim, which means what? You could do an extra 2 days, right? Besides Yud Gimel. Now, how, when, what? So the Chachamim made it fixed. In this year, it should be Yud Aleph. This year should be Yud Beis. This year should be Yud Gimel. It should always be on a Monday and Thursday. It shouldn't be Stam. I'm going to come in Tuesday. I'm going to come in Thursday. They made us say that. That's one perspective. However, the Meiri gives another very interesting interpretation. He says that Ezra made the Takon of Kriyas HaTorah when he was still in exile, when he was in Bavel before he made Aliyat to Eretz Yisrael, during the time of Purim, because he was alive. So therefore, he made the takana before he came up to Eretz Yisrael. And because he made the takana, so then when they made the Megillah already, you already had this concept of coming to the cities on Monday and Thursday. Or another thing he says is, perhaps it was an old takana, but Ezra is the one who consolidated it and made it powerful. So that's another way of understanding how this developed.
Ezra lived during Purim, according to this?
Yeah. According to this, the Aliyat to Eretz Yisrael, he obviously made later because he made it in the days of Daryavesh, who was a son of Achashverosh. So he wasn't in Eretz Yisrael then making the celebration of Purim. He was in Bavel, right? He came up with the 42,000 Jews in the second Aliyah. But perhaps he made the Takana when he was still in exile, not in Eretz Yisrael, during the time of the Ness of Purim or before it. Or another alternative the Meiri says is Takana was there earlier, and it's called on Ezra because Ezra Ezra, because of his authority, Ezra HaSofer says that he was Roy for Matan Torah to be through him. He's the one who really...
Doesn't the second one fit better?
the second shot, that it was an earlier takana. Yeah, I'm just giving the different alternatives.
Like such a simple, plain answer that it almost makes the question.
Okay. Those are the best answers, no? The best answers are the answers where you say, hey, why did I ask a question? Those are the best answers, no?
They gave the allowance. Then they said,
Logic Nes gave the leeway. The reason the first answer is Geschmack is because then it would make very much sense with the Bismanehem. In other words, they didn't want to, why didn't they write all the days? Come on, what is this, like a joke where you put it in with an extra letter? Come on. That's how you write a constitution, with extra letters, and then I have to figure out days? I mean, it seems a little strange. Huh? But that's the idea. The idea is they didn't want to make more days for Purim. Because you had the Chacham from the Manashtana talking about Purim and Pesach. Every Chacham from the Manashtana will wake up and say, you know what? Yudalin and Tesvav, I'm still going to be in Hawaii. We can't disturb my vacation. We'll do a different Purim. Purim is Yudalin and Tesvav. They put in codes a mention of Bismanehem, that Purim could be on multiple times, to explain and show that there is a concept of celebrating Purim, not when it says explicitly in the Megillah. How? You have to figure out in the scenario what the scenario is. There's nothing explicit here. If you're coming to the city a day before, you come into the city 2 days before, do the Megillah then, it's fine, we don't care. And you could do a bracha and everything is good. Right? And then, in the time of the Mishnah, they made a system, because there was already a system. They were coming in Monday and Thursday. It's always better to have a system, because that way, there's less fallout, etc. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow there'll be a shir. Have a wonderful day. It's a pleasure to have you. You see, Gemara doesn't have to be so boring.
It's amazing, but the shadow is, how could it be clear, even with the meaning of the same Anshe Knesses that were writing the days, that why not allow us to, this is the days and this is the exception, and be clear about it, why have to go through these. I'm going to get,
Be okay.
No, I think it's very meaningful, because
wasn't it also Monday and Thursday one of the reasons they had turned around? Only one of the reasons why they came to the cities on the Mondays and Thursdays?
either for Bezdin, for courts, or for Kriyas HaTorah, but both of those things were instituted by Ezra.
Right, so then why again?
So when they wrote the Megillah, there wasn't an option. So how could you say they instituted? So that's what we said. They just instituted the generic idea.
The way why not just these are the days? What are the two?
Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, and Yud Gimel. 3 days. Because that's exactly
the point is it shouldn't be practiced outside unless this is
the point is it's an exception. It's a unique exception. Especially if it's not fixed.
But it was that generation.
No, because the point is, especially because it was before Ezra, so it wasn't like people were coming in on Mondays and Thursdays. People were just coming in when they had to go in. I had an appointment, I have a deal, I want to meet my uncle. So it's not a fixed thing. So they're just saying there's certain Jews who can have other times.
So because it wasn't
it's very ambiguous. It's very ambiguous.
So it kept the ambiguous.
The hint actually matches what it was. Because I have nothing to tell you. I'm not making you Beis a day here. We're not making you Beis a day.
Very good.
You understand?
Jesus, I'm going to over time.
What didn't you understand?
I still don't understand the reference. I understand what you're telling me, like the reference, but why not just, if it was the same Anshe classes that were coming out, and why not also say, by the way, if you're living in the...
No, they did it. My question was not if they said it. That's how we know it. Why didn't they hint it in the text of the Megillah? That's the question. They said it. That's why we have the halacha. The Mishnah records it. They didn't make it up. That's what Jews used to do.
So we want it on the basis.
The question is, so they said it, but why wouldn't they hint it? They wrote a text for Purim. It's laws. Why didn't they put in this detail? So he says they put it in, they hinted.
Even two ways to look at it through the.
I don't know about you, but I walk out the door.
You understand?
I do understand.
They instituted it explicitly. That was not a hint. It was halacha they made.
You may be in your mind.
For 2 days.
For an extra days.
For an extra days.
But the question was why they wrote a text. Whenever you write a text for a Yom
Yeah, I
Tov,
have pills for that.
and you're writing all the laws, Shalom, have a feast.
Why not also include?
So put it, and you're writing the dates, and you're giving more dates, write more dates.
Well, womit je het hier, dan gaan we het ook met de tweede. Man killer, it's interesting. The terrorist stem daar.
Which one?
Dus je kan conclude that the army said today's answer this perfectly.
Unless you say the other part, like the Meiri. The Meiri says that Ezra there was masakin in it already, that it was very fixed.
You know, he had the issue questions of having about it.
Which was which?
I'm enough of was on there.
Oh, you Gimel.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Oh, it's hard to understand. Yeah.
Die schauen mir manchmal verkehrt. Schauen mir das. Also wir können schon mal was Franz Katuk celebration. In the I was not saying. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just opposite. And the Surah it makes sense. It makes
The emphasis that from the Bavli, the way we learn the Gemara of the Parshas, it's mashma. The Dajjal Nesadel was masakin Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. The Yerushalmi says not. They just said you could do it a few days earlier. It wasn't Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. And it could be there's a big nothing in it because like the Yerushalmi is almost to be on the Gavra. Like those are not days of Kriyas HaMegillah. If you don't have time and you're pressured and you come into the city before we let you read the Megillah. Like the Bavli, Megillah Nikras.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the explanations, Megillah Nikras, not Kairin, is it's not just it's a chiyuv on me, I read. The Megillah could be read then. In other words, it's a zman of Kriyas HaMegillah. Huh?
Okay, so Megillah is not too much to that.
Huh?
I was talking.
It's a zman of Kriyas
Yeah,
HaMegillah.
that was the second point of Yishalmi, but even in the first point, the Yishalmi is mamish going in the opposite direction of, it's not a day of celebration, it's less day of celebration.
Yeah.
As
And if you take a say like the Meiri, that the Takon of Ezra was there, like the Bible, then it's very geschmack that the Anshe Knesset Agdala, they made it as man. Yud Aleph is as man. Yud Beis is as man. Yud Gimel is as man. If it's Yom HaKnissa, it's as man of Megillah. It's not as man every year, but it lends itself. It's as man.
They
It's
gave
a
them allowance.
It's a purim. It's a
They gave
shtickle purim.
allowance. Do what you need to
Not
do.
just a kula on the gavra, like you say b'dikas chametz. You're going away 30 days before. That's the 30 days. You do b'dikas chametz. You're not going to say Purim is a day of b'dikas chametz. Yud Ches Ad is a day of b'dikas chametz. It's an allowance. Or you say, yeah. There's a sikha from the Levantine Rebbe on Purim. See, teaches why it doesn't say Kodim, the Gilin Nikras. We spoke yesterday. He says to teach. Yeah. So the Shainim say, I think that it's fine. Yeah, that Krishma you read on your own. It says Megillah Nikras. Kindness of Megillah means you're allowed to read the Megillah. Megillah means the Megillah is read. It's a day of reading the Megillah. It's a Zman of Megillah. We're letting you do it early. No. Yeah, we're letting you do it early. But it becomes a Zman of Megillah.
So something's happening when we're reading the Megillah.
Huh?
Something's happening when we're reading the Megillah.
The Yerushalmi Taka says Kol HaChodesh Kashel Kriyas HaMegillah, but Kol HaChodesh is different than this. Kol HaChodesh would mean you're allowed to read it, not that it's a Zman of Megillah. Here it's a Zman of Megillah. It works well if you take like the Bavli, Anshe Knesset Agdala were masakin the days. Like Yerushalmi, no, it says clearly they weren't masakin the days. They just gave an allowance. It's mas. Yeah.
Yeah.